It feels like home, home, home. It feels like home, home, home. It feels like home.
You guys, I cannot believe it. 2,000 subscribers and then some. I am just blown away. Thank you all so much for the support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in and just making this such a joy and a delight to do. I want to give you this recipe, but first I just wanted to say a couple things to give you an update. My husband is leaving all of his options on the table. He's looking in all different directions, and we're not even excluding the idea that I might go get a job myself. Honestly, when I was a young woman, that was how I thought that I would earn my value, and that was how I defined myself, really. I thought being a career woman was the only way to be anything that was worth attaining. And now that I have done both and been a stay-at-home homeschooling mom for many, many years, I really feel like that is what I was made for. I loved doing singing and touring and all the things that I did when I was young, but now that I get to stay home with my kids, there is just something that is so precious to me about watching their discovery and getting to just hang out with them all day and encourage them and try and train up their character. And boy, I tell you, they really train up mine as well. So there's something really glorious about this lifestyle that I think if you're a young woman, I don't want you to miss. Anyway, I want to get you this recipe. You are going to be so thrilled. This is a recipe that many people over the years have asked me for because my daughter and I actually had a small business called Rockin Rollery, and if you've ever had Rockin Rollery's rolls, you will know that they are soft and tender. It's kind of like the equivalent of a Krispy Kreme donut in a cinnamon roll. Let's get going. Basically, you're going to need 4 cups of milk, and I do everything in this glass measuring cup because it's super easy to see and I can put it right into my microwave, which is where this is going. Okay, so, and 1 cup of corn oil. And 1 cup of sugar. And as I get this all going, you guys are going to be definitely seeing a lot more cooking from our stockpile kind of videos in the near future, just because my husband said don't spend any money. So that's my next goal. So this I'm going to put into the microwave for 4.5 minutes. So while I'm waiting for that to get warm, I just want to tell you some of the other things that we're doing. We're getting ready to do our garden. So I have started a bunch of little seedlings. If you can see, I really need to transfer these into a bigger pot. And we're getting ready to transfer those into some bigger pots so that we can put them into the ground when it is, I think our last day is sometime in April. So I have it on the calendar, but trying to get everything started so that we can have a nice big full garden. And I will be canning from that garden and preserving all kinds of things from the garden. So please be sure and tune in for all of the fun exploits. Okay, so this is what you should have. It's the 4 cups of milk, the 1 cup of sugar, and the 1 cup of oil. And if you can see on the top, it's got like a little bit of the milk kind of rose up. It's very warm, but I can touch it with my hands. And to that now, I'm going to add 4.5 teaspoons of active yeast. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And then I'm going to just go ahead and pour that mixture directly, even as it is, right into my KitchenAid mixing bowl. Be sure and scrape out all of the sugar. That's what the yeast is going to munch on and make itself big and strong and fluffy. I'm gonna let this mixture come to bloom, and then I'll show you what that looks like. I'll bring the camera over here. I'm trying to do this all on my own today with no cameraman so that I can let my son finally get caught up on his schoolwork. Here we are in the spring. We're getting close to the final stretch of school, so I'm really trying to get all of their work completed so that we can do our end of the year testing and be completely finished with it by the end of May. We use the Good and the Beautiful curriculum because it's just an open and go thing, and I find that really, really easy for me. I have done other curriculums in the past. If you're a homeschooler, let me know what you use and what you guys like. I really have liked the open and go-ness of the Good and the Beautiful, but if there's something that you use that you feel like doesn't require a whole lot of preparation time, let me know what it is down in the comments. So here is what the yeast mixture looks like, and it's all bloomed. And I'm gonna go ahead and now add the flour to that. You just wanna make sure that your yeast is good and that you get a nice yeasty, delicious smell. So to that mixture, I've added 8 cups of flour, and now I'm just gonna go ahead and mix that in with my spatula. And it doesn't have to be very well mixed. You just wanna make sure and get all of that flour wet with the yeast mixture. So it just needs to look kind of pulled together a little bit like that. And it doesn't have to be any more mixed than that. And then I'll go ahead and just put a little lid on that. I cover it with this kind of a lid because I just use these, and this is then how I store my dough. And I like to chill down my dough. It's a whole lot easier to work with, but this is the first rise, and after this rise, I'm gonna add some more ingredients, so don't look away. We're gonna come back and I'll show you what to add next. Okay, so this is what the dough looks like, how high it rose in the pan. And you can see I didn't mix it anymore since I showed you, but it has raised significantly. And now I'm just gonna kind of stir that down a little bit. And I go ahead and put my dough hook inside of it. And then I'm gonna go, and the reason I do that is because I don't want a big clump of all of these other ingredients that we're now adding. So I'm gonna add 1 cup of flour, 1 tablespoon of salt, and I think this salt is just table salt. If you had sea salt and it's bigger flakes, you might want to add just a tiny bit more. Also a tablespoon of baking powder, and I like to really heap it up, and I have to use my hands because, like I've said many times, North Carolina is very, very wet, and so we get lots of lumps in all of our stuff. And then 1 scant teaspoon of baking soda, and this is going to make it nice and fluffy. And then I just kind of mix it together with my hands. And now I'm gonna go ahead and let my KitchenAid do the remainder of the work for us. So now the dough has adequately mixed and it's nice and smooth. I'm gonna go ahead and just plop it out onto the counter, and I will divide it in 2 pieces so that I save half of it. And so what I normally do is I just let about half of it fall out. This is not an exact science by any means, and that's about half. The other half I'm gonna go ahead and put into my container to chill it down and use it for another use. And this just makes great bread. Very soft. It's much softer than the milk bread. If you've made the milk bread, it's a much sturdier dough, and this is much more light and fluffy. Okay, so I have shown you this wonderful rolling pin before. My very dear friend Leslie gave it to me, and her son Chad made it, and he is a magnificent furniture maker in Chicago area now. This was among his first projects when he first got his business, and I feel very honored to have it. So I've rolled it out. You can see it's not super even. It really doesn't matter all that much. But now I've got a stick and a half of butter that I have brought to room temperature in the microwave. And I mix that with a cup of brown sugar and probably about 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. And you can see that's a lot of cinnamon. That's why the color is so nice and dark, but I absolutely love cinnamon, so you can definitely lessen the cinnamon if you're not as big a fan of cinnamon. But you can see this is the size cinnamon that I buy, and I go through it pretty quickly. I like it on my coffee and on a lot of my desserts, so you can lighten it up if you prefer. My husband is looking at several job options, and I'm just excited to see what God opens up, because It is very much a blank slate, and we're just kind of holding our breath, hoping and praying that we get to keep the farm, but if not, God has something good in mind. So just you want to get this all kind of evenly spread on your lovely piece of dough. And then I'm going to heat the oven to 170 degrees because that's how I like to let it rise. It just goes really fast. So I let it rise for 18 minutes, and then I let it bake for 18 minutes or thereabouts, checking it between 15 and 18 minutes. And your oven may be a little bit different than mine, so just keep an eye. You just want it to be golden brown. And I like to cook in glass round pans because then you can easily see how the cooking spread has gone, whether or not it is fully browned all the way through. So now I'm just going to roll this up. I'm going to first scooch all the excess flour to the side because I will use that at the end when I go to cut, but I don't want any extra flour in the middle of my dough. So I go from one side to the other and I try and roll it as tightly as I can. That makes the prettiest pinwheel when you're going for your cinnamon roll. I'm gonna just get this out of the way because these edges are getting way too floury. Sometimes it really sticks to the granite, and today it's not a particularly wet day. In fact, we have gorgeous weather outside. I mean, beyond stunning. I love the springtime here. So I just kind of just push my dough back in, and then I cut off these very ends. And Mary and I always used those two as our tasters so that we had quality control when we were doing our rolls. We wanted to make sure we never gave out a bad batch of rolls, and so we always tasted each batch so that we knew that it was going to be tasty and delicious for the people that were getting them. And so those were our tasters. And so I cut everything into thirds, and then I cut each third in half, and then I cut each half in half until I come up with 24 rolls. Well, if I had some disposable ones, I would. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the oven, bake 170, and then I'll put them in for 18 minutes. And I like to put them in the oven while it's cold. It's just letting them proof, and then I'll bake them for the same amount of time. And because I can't fit them all on one, I like to switch when I bake. I'll switch them halfway through. But there you go, 18 minutes at 170, and they will fluff up and be beautiful.